Can you see me, Ryan? Let's see. There I am. All right. We're going to start this all over, guys. Fun times. All right. Welcome to our latest episode of Mornings with Mayesh. It's Yvonne here, and thank you so much for joining us. I am here today with Ryan O'Neil of Curate, and we are going to be nerding out all about CRM. Super, super exciting. We've had lots of nerdy episodes lately, and I love this topic. I think it's so important. It's going to help your business. So I'm going to give everyone a couple of minutes to rejoin me because I made a little boo-boo and I went to the wrong episode to go live on. I went on tomorrow's, and that's what I get for scheduling 2 in 1 week. By the way, tomorrow I have Sarah Campbell and Jordan Marks from the Big Flower Fight guys. It is going to be so much fun. Definitely a little change of pace for us, and it's going to be cool. So tons of great things. We'll talk about behind the scenes this season. Is there going to be a next season? All that fun stuff. So it'll be good. So join us tomorrow, and you'll see that in the Facebook Lives schedule there where you are. Okay. Also, another reminder, guys, if you have questions, feel free to post them in the comments below. Of course, we'll cover them as time allows or as we're talking and it fits in with our line of discussion. Also, just so you know, and just a refresher, or for anyone that is new, welcome, by the way, we post this replay over on our blog. Of course, it's available right away over on Facebook Live, but we put it up on YouTube and we post that video replay. Then we also create a podcast for you so that way you can listen while you are designing, you are exercising, teaching, driving, whatever. That way you can multitask and still get all the goodness that we're putting out into the world. And then also, of course, our show notes. So that way any kind of links or anything that we mention will be over there, all the questions, so that way you know what we're covering. All good stuff. To make sure that you get when our show notes are posted on our blog, be sure to subscribe. I'm going to post that link again. Everyone's saying good morning. Hey, guys. Yes, I made a little bit of a boo-boo. That happens once in a while. All right, so definitely click that link to subscribe so that way you get any kind of blog updates, any kind of news, all that fun stuff. And then also, if you register, take that next step, then you also get all of our pricing specials, all that fun stuff. Good stuff. Lots of fun stuff. I keep on saying I have to stop. All right. So speaking of fun stuff, one more time, I'm bringing on Ryan. Hey, Ryan.
Hey.
How
How's
are
it
you?
going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Just, still living. And as we were joking about earlier, just having a great hair day in the middle of, stay at home and quarantine and all that fun stuff.
I am definitely jealous of your hair situation right now. You have no idea. I'm like way overdue. I was overdue before COVID hit, like by months, guys. I'm really bad about going because it takes like 4 hours for this to get done. It's insane. I don't like going. It's not enjoyable. And then that hit, and so I'm like, 6 months overdue. It's crazy. I need help. Lots of help. So anyhow, thank you so much for joining us, Ryan. Before we get started, and just in case people don't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and, of course, your flower story? How did you end up in this crazy industry of ours?
Sure. Yeah, most certainly. So I'm Ryan O'Neil. I'm the founder of Curate. We help build, we help florists be able to automate all of their processes for their weddings and events, give incredibly gorgeous proposals, and just take those 17 different files that none of it talks to each other that's laying across that workroom table, and we put it all into one streamlined experience. And the flower story goes back to that. I married a florist, and this is actually our 10th, we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary here. So we're really excited about that. We're going to go to Hawaii, but are not going to Hawaii. And so I guess we have to wait on that one.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you very much. It's been 10 years. It's crazy. And through that process, we decided to start a company, a wedding and event company. And I still remember the moment we're sitting at the kitchen table, and my wife just had, 17 different pieces of information about this event laying on that table. She had a physical contract that, the customer had snail mailed into us. She had a pricing list, a wholesale pricing list of what she needed to buy that was printed out, and she just sort of kept it in a drawer that she pulled out for pricing. She had, a invoicing software that actually sent the invoice with the customer's information on it. Speaking of CRMs, she
Right.
also had an Excel sheet that looked like Dr. Frankenstein created it with the customer's information on it and some of what they wanted. She had a questionnaire that they filled out on the website with the customer's information. And so we had all this stuff in all of these different places. And it was that moment at that kitchen table, just covered in papers, that we thought there's got to be a better way. And at that time, there wasn't. And so we built it. And it's been really cool just helping so many of these florists that are having to spend extra time on this, right? And invest extra time into coordinating and curating all those pieces of their company. So that's a little bit about our story and sort of how we came to where we are.
I love it. And Ryan and I have been friends for a few years now. It's
In a
been
minute.
quite a while. Yeah, right. And I love having you on this show because, like I said, you're so knowledgeable and a little bit nerdy, just like me. And we're going to share our nerdiness with everyone. Does that sound fun?
Sure. Let's do it.
All right. So I think the first and most basic question, Ryan, what is CRM?
Sure, that's a great question. So, as the actual definition, it's a customer relationship management tool. The more common expression or more common way that people view it is it's just a central database of all of the information you have about a customer, your all of the relationship that you've had, and different. We're going to get into this, but different tools have different sort of functionalities or benefits of being able to help that relationship with your customer and make sure that across your company, you have one single place that you can go and find out what's my relationship with this person? What have we done for them? What information did they give me at one point that I can't really remember?
Right.
I like to tell a story of a time that this is before we had built, Curate completely like it is, but we went to a wedding show. I don't know that I've ever told this story on Mornings with Mayesh. We went to a wedding show, and I'm huge on the fact that as soon as we get home from that wedding show, I know we're worn out. I know we've been standing on our feet all day, but I'm going to get in there and I'm going to email every one of these people and be that first person that gets back with them. And we had used a Google form, and we had exported the Google form, and somehow we had misaligned the fiance's name and the bride's name or the client's name, and by one cell. And so I was sending out these emails to everybody really quick. Hey, Nicole, it was so great to hear about how John proposed to you. And Nicole's like, who's John?
Oh, no.
It was just one of those moments when I was just doing things very manually. And
Right.
again, we weren't using a CRM at that point in time. So I was just sort of trying to go out and be very successful at it. And having tools like that protects you from accidentally writing the wrong fiance's name when you're sending out an email about having had a great experience meeting someone. So that's the point of the CRM, is just really to protect all of those experiences that you have with your customers.
I love it. That's a great story and just a really great case study of why you need a CRM.
100%. And I learned it about 50 times over that day.
Yeah, and let's dig in a little bit more about why businesses need a CRM. What do you think there? Like more
Sure.
specifically.
It's a great question. So this varies from business to business, and that's probably the key thing that it comes down to. Like you will notice within your own company that there are particular conflicts that happen. Let's say if you have more than one person on your team, if you have 4 or 5 people that are designing or that are working or that are communicating with customers, you'll start to notice when the customer is saying things twice and they're not having a great experience. It's because for whatever reason, your system of making sure that what's communicated about that customer isn't synced up. And so when we ask sort of why do you need it, you have to look at your particular use case. Number one, a big thing that I like to ask is, where are you going with your company? Are you wanting to keep the same level of business that you have currently? If that's the case, it's just a time saving tool. It's about a way to be able to reduce the amount of time that you have that you're having to spend remembering information or keeping up with information about a person. And to that point, it does take work and effort updating it, but it becomes a time saving tool if you really are comfortable with where you're at and you don't really want to grow significantly. Grow pretty significantly, that becomes a separate reason for using a CRM. Because from the perspective of where your finish line is, you really have to take a step back and say, what tools do I need to get to a finish line? Finish lines, a lot of times in our mind, we think of it as like a race, when a lot of times it's more of like a race car. It's something where there's a lot of different tools that can help me achieve what I'm needing to. That really is where a CRM comes in that you have to do less work. If all you needed to do was what you were already doing, well, it doesn't require extra tools to do that. But if you're wanting to hire more people, if you are wanting to get more customers, that it's hard to keep up with all of the information about what their favorite color is, or you want to see repeat customers coming back, those are important pieces where you have a central place that everybody in your company knows that they go to get that information.
Yes.
Another big component is how many team members you have, specifically customer interfacing. If you got a team member and you bring in some freelancers on the weekend, well, that's not a big need if none of them are customer facing. But if you have a lot of customer facing people, you can no longer keep that information in one person's head. And that works for a short period of time, but at some point, everybody's information is going to have to be synchronized together. So you're giving that customer a great experience moving forward on a consistent basis. So that's another piece, like how many people's heads have information about that customer and how do we sync that together? Another piece is, are they repeat customers? So if you are a wedding and event florist like my wife and I were, we rarely had repeat customers. We every so often would have a sister that would come in and want to reuse us. But for the most part, we had built a business model around finding people that are needing an event florist. And that was what our business model was. Whereas if you are wanting to turn those people, like let's say that's just an entryway, weddings and events, and you're wanting to get them for a later point in time, or to this point, when something like COVID happens and events are canceled, and you're needing to figure out, how am I going to go back and think creatively about marketing to people that I already have a great relationship with, and maybe I can offer some other kind of service to them? That's really where a CRM comes in handy, because you then have all of that information saved about all of your customers and you can go back to it. So those are a few of the considerations that I would say you need to ask. Why is it going to help you in particular? We'll go down those considerations. Do I have information in more than one person's head that needs to be synced up to give a great customer experience? Do I need to talk to this person again and have an extended relationship where I might have forgotten what their favorite color is, but I need to be reminded of that. Right. And then as well as long-term goals. If you're going to go long-term, you have to have a tool that's going to help you get to those goals. So for sure, I'd say those are the three or four main components.
Yeah, I love that. And I think just storing that information just really helps personalize the experience for the customer. So even like I'll notice, when I go somewhere, someone will like remember a little bit of whatever I told them. I know they have some sort of system where they're just keeping track of that, because if you're anything like me and you have all this information in your head, it's really hard to keep track of who is who, especially if you're dealing with a lot of customers or potential clients and you're trying to close that sale. You just want to make sure that you're serving them well, and you really can personalize their experience, and you're really treating them as the person, not just as like just someone that's a number. Right. That makes a huge difference. And for us, we implemented a CRM a few years ago, and we're still working on it. We're a bigger company, so it's a little different for the smaller like B2Cs. And but it's just nice because people like our reps have like folders on customers, right? And all of this information. So now there's like one central place to go and store all of that and create notes and send email and log calls and log their meetings and what happened with those meetings. And even just like something simple is like, do we have the right paperwork? Because, we're a B2B, so we have to have certain paperwork.
Mhm.
So we can kind of use that to know, like, okay, yes, we have it, and set a reminder when we need updated paperwork
Right.
and all of that fun stuff. So it's a really great tool just to kind of keep that all straight. And then again, to deliver more personalized um, messages, whether it's in person, email, all of that. And pivoting such a huge thing, right? I saw like a meme, like if I hear the word pivot one more time, but it's true, everyone is working on, how to create revenue for themselves, how to survive through this whole COVID craziness. And having a great system with customer information is huge for that, to be able to do that successfully. All right. Very good, Ryan. Thank you. Penny says, this is good. Penny says, I had a client who's deathly allergic to gyp. We put the notes on her name, so whenever we sent flowers, to avoid the allergy attack, which is great. So
Wow.
again,
Yeah, that's huge.
yes, really
That's
big.
huge. 'Cause one mistake there, one mistake is messes you up forever and leaves that brand and can ruin your brand.
Yeah. Just shut your doors down, something like
Hmm.
that. Yeah, very good. All right, we're moving on to our next question. What specific CRM tools do you think B2C businesses like florists, whether it's retail, wedding, and event, should be considering?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have people who come in to Curate all the time, and they're saying, "Hey, I'd like a CRM. Are you guys a CRM?" And our question to them always flips back to, "What in your mind is a CRM?"
Right.
And because as it was, as we were building this stuff out, we began to realize like some people's expectation of a CRM was simply just a way to be able to keep up with where in the workflow a particular event was. And that
Mhm.
was the entire process of a CRM. And for that particular person, whereas other people, when they think CRM, they think I need email automation, right? So as soon as somebody does a particular action, I need to send them an email. I need to send mass emails. Some people even view CRMs to the extent of wanting like a landing page associated with that.
Right.
So anytime someone says, "Are you all a CRM?" we always have to flip that question right back and be like, "Well, what are you needing? What specific tools are you needing?" And so some of the things, and we actually have a post about this. We just built a resource about sort of the 7 things you need to look at. So I might be repeating some of those pieces, but one of the things is you need forms on there, and that's a big thing. You need to be able to have the ability for forms to be automatically loaded into whatever that system is. We have that within Curate. But then as well, another thing that people like to have is like mass emails that go out. And so to say, hey, let me email this huge group of people. Well, if you're a wedding and event florist, that hasn't been the top feature that's requested, right? Because not everybody gets married all the time, and no one has a random wedding this weekend that they need some flowers for. So to that point, you have to ask, what pieces am I needing based off of what we use? And so, things like that, like lead management inquiries that came in, managing your pipeline of events that you have of, hey, here's where, this is an inquiry. I've sent this proposal, but, they haven't booked yet. I need to be following up with them versus, hey, let me, look at the people that have booked an event that, COVID,
Yeah.
exciting, right? So it's like, all right, now let me go find all of those people. And so like in our platform, and I'm just giving you an example from ours, but in our platform, like you have the ability to tag particular deals. And most platforms should have that ability to add tags and sort through, because that's really what a CRM is doing. Not only is it information about one customer, it's information about all of your customers. So you need to make sure a key tool is the ability to filter and sort through
Yeah.
things. That's a huge, huge deal for CRMs to be able to very quickly help you find the information you need in the right moment. Some other things is just seeing whether the client has interacted with that email you sent. That's a big deal for you to know, are they a Mia bride? And I like to use Mia instead of missing in action. Like, is it someone who's just sort of disappeared, right? I sent her the proposal and she's shopping it around to 17 people's floral shops. Or is it something where that person's actively engaging with this, right? Did they really come to me? Are they talking about it internally? And then you have that information on your side to know, should I reach back out to them? Some other pieces on my side that I find it's a really big thing is, workflow capabilities. When that inquiry comes in, I'm huge on this line I saw from like a Harvard study. You're at like 5 to 700% more likely to reach someone if you have responded to them within the first 10 minutes than if you have responded to them within like the first hour.
Yes.
And so having that automation set up, that as soon as that inquiry comes in, even if it's not you personally, even if you are standing on a ladder installing some big, Lysianthus hanging installation, right? And I've been there when I had an inquiry that came in like that. That's huge that you have a system set up that can respond and interface with customers and give them the next step. So those are a few of the key things, key components that we see people coming in looking for. What have you seen on your side, Yvonne, of different tools people have looked for from a CRM?
Yeah, I mean, I think the landing pages are huge. That's something that we were just talking about for websites. So, just having something where you're again trying to get people into your funnel. I think another thing for like B2C businesses that would be great to look into is surveys. Especially like with you want people to have the best experience. You want to be able to collect that. You want to be able to monitor your results and hopefully watch those results improve over time as you're collecting them. So some sort of survey tool I think would be great. And workflows are huge. For me, we use workflows all the time, every day, all day. Just again to set up that like automation, emails going out, depending on what actions they take on our website. So like every form has a different workflow. Another example of someone that's amazing at workflows is Christina Barragon from
Oh
Florist
my gosh,
Society,
yeah.
Josh Peony. Yeah, she's like the queen of workflows. So like if you're curious about that, I know she has a lot of resources too. And just sign up for her stuff or send her an email and you'll
Right.
see firsthand what happens when that, and it's like you have like instant responses. And I think, Ryan, what you said is, having that response like as quickly as possible, like in minutes, really shows people that you care about them, that you want their business, that you want to be able to reply, even if it isn't in person right away. And again, giving them, like you said, the next steps, like and what to expect, like setting expectations. So again, they're having the best experience that they can possibly have.
Sure. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's key. Yeah, Amber says not all CRMs are created equal. We switched from 17 hats to Curate because it focuses more on the needs of florists. So very good.
Yeah. Well, and that's true too.
Thanks,
And I
Amber.
know this is probably one of the questions coming up in a
Yep.
little bit, but every CRM has a different focus, and some
Right.
are focused specifically on the marketing side, but doesn't holistically follow through to maybe a proposal side or the sales side. So there's always this mix between marketing versus sales versus customer service that every different CRM has, that sort of picks up a different mix of those. So you really have to take a look through them and ask them on that. Obviously, the more specific you get, the more that you're going to be making an investment to say, hey, I really want to see my company growing and something that's built the way that we work. But to that point, like if, we actually use, so we have Curate for our platform, that we will utilize sometimes to send out like proposals and stuff to our customers.
Mhm.
But then from a marketing standpoint, we actually utilize HubSpot, because that's built from a larger to scale than what we're built for the needs of florists. So we
Right.
see both of the needs for those different kinds. But then as well, we also use, and nobody on this call really would benefit from this so much, but we utilize a tool called Churn Zero, which is more about the customer's experience and how are they using the platform. So all three of those things that we use as Curate could be considered CRMs themselves, but they
Mhm.
have different purposes for each. And to that point, the more that you get, or the different systems that you get, the harder it is to tie data across both sides of them, which is again another thing you have to consider when making a decision on some stuff like this. How much time am I going to spend if I do choose to go with two CRMs of connecting pieces together versus having a CRM that really covers the main needs I have versus ancillary needs?
Yes, yes. And speaking of data, that was one thing that I think people need to look at is the reporting functionality. There are certain things that we look at often, conversion and all those fun things.
Right.
But even just knowing, so like our last mornings with Mayesh, we talked about being able to track where people are coming from, and so like whether you ask them that or you're tracking it
Mm-hmm.
on the back end, it's good to know both of those. Like when you ask someone, what do they say, but where are they also coming from and how
Right.
did they get to you? I
Right.
think is just really important to understand. So that way all of your marketing efforts are done in the right place, and you can build an experience around that as well.
Right. And put the right money in the right spot.
Exactly.
I've seen too many people, we had this happen to us, but I've seen too many people that get sucked into this idea of supporting the local wedding industry when that industry, when the basically they're saying that to be able to have you invest in their marketing efforts, which is great, but you've got to see that return back.
Right.
And that has to be a really upfront conversation with them. And if you don't have the numbers and the data to be able to back that up, it's kind of hard to have that conversation about their performance and the places you're placing your money. I mean, if you want to support the local industry just to do it, there's plenty of places you can write a check. But if you're doing it from the perspective of I'm making an investment in my business, that's such a huge deal to have that data backing that up. And exactly to your point, always have that question on there. Make sure you're getting that question answered somewhere. Where did you hear about us? And you should be able to generate source reporting. And we can get into a fun conversation of first touch and last touch, which is a bit more of an advanced topic of how to measure those pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever you do, just if you're getting some source, that's better than nothing for you to be able to pull a report from and say, are we investing our money in the right places?
Yeah. Yeah. And I love what you just said too about advertising and know what is what and what's coming in. So, you guys will notice the link that Curate put in the comments, has, a campaign, a source, a medium. That's so they can know by doing this webinar, how many people are clicking on that when we share it, how many people are coming from what we're sharing.
Yep.
And I think that's great. And for example, I just did an ad on a website, and I created a landing page just for that ad. It's based off of one that I already have, one of my basic ones, and just customize the message. But the link that they use is also a link that has some tracking parameters. So that way I know exactly who came in. I can track them through the funnel, and then I know how many customers were closed, and I can tie that to sales. So
Right.
it's really a great tool to be able to do that. And again, put your money where it's going to be the best return on investment for yourself and your business. It's all good stuff. I love it. All right, Ryan, let's talk about how florists are using CRM to increase their bookings.
Sure.
Can we go through
So
like a good case study there?
yeah, perfect segue from what we were just talking about. What we see, and I'm actually doing this personally with a lot of our florists right now. We are trying to figure out ways, even for us. We have reporting, we have source reporting within a particular level of our software, but even for us, for our customers, how do we help make sure that money is being invested in the right spot? So that's again a perfect segue pulling over to this, which that reporting is the first thing. I so many times people worry about their close rate and they're like, oh, I'm not closing enough, I don't have enough deals coming in, and they don't like take a step above that to figure out where are these deals coming from in the first place.
Right.
So the quickest way you can do to increase your bookings is to recognize that not all leads are created equally, and you can use a CRM to find out which leads are different, right? And which leads are better for your company. It doesn't mean that that person shouldn't have a great wedding just because they're not a fit for your company, but it would be better if you could find out as soon as that opportunity came in whether they're a fit before you have to go through a 2-hour sales process with them, an hour consultation, and then an hour of back and forth.
Right.
And the ways that some people are doing that, so for example, I was just talking to a florist and they said, we feel like this particular wedding planner always sends us information to give them a quote, and they never have anybody that books with us. And so that's what they were pulling their numbers for, was to find out, is this person, are we spending this time actually increasing our bookings, or are we doing it just to help out a planner who's asking for a quote? And so they pulled the information, and at this point, I don't answer whether they were or weren't helping, but that data answered that question. And it let them know, okay, maybe we do need to continue working with this person, or option B, hey, here's a marketing piece. Why don't you use this marketing piece, this PDF or something that we created, and let us know, if you'd like to discuss further, and create those opportunities to know whether or not they need to be investing in those relationships. A lot of people will utilize like reports, end of year reports, to say what venues did we work at, and now we want to go talk to those venues and make sure that we're sending them something. One thing that we did, and this has been a few years back, we spent about $25 to get an $18,000 wedding. And I love this story because it just represents exactly what we're talking about here. We spent $25 to get an $18,000 wedding. And the way we did it was we went back through all the vendors we had worked with the previous year. And for Valentine's Day, we were an event company, so we didn't have like a lot of Valentine's Day orders coming in. We actually just created some small arrangements for each of those vendors. And we took a $25 arrangement to one of the vendors. I think we had only done 1 or 2 jobs with them, but we wanted to build that relationship better. And about a week later, they said, hey, we were just thinking about you. When you came in and dropped those flowers off, we'd like for you to talk to you about an event that we have going on. And it ended up being an $18,000 event, our largest event we'd ever done.
Wow.
And the reason we got to that is because all we did was we went back to our system and we said, who have we worked with this last year? Who do we need to continue to build relationships with? Because this is the better leads that we have coming through that. So that's huge. It's huge, huge, huge when you have stories like that to see, okay, if I'm going to do better at booking, where do I need to invest my money? So that's one thing. But the other piece on this is reducing time. And this is so huge. You've got to reduce the time that you're having of misinformation or bad information or duplicated information. And so it is a tough thing as a company. You have to, one big tip I give is you have to codify that information that goes into that system. You have to make sure that it's standardized and everybody knows the right way to enter it. And so if there's a particular field, you can't just have everybody putting their own schema. So for example, if let's say, one of the things we have in the Curate CRM we have a HubSpot account, we have a first name pronunciation. So we have a first name, but then we have another property called first name pronunciation. And so we have to make sure that when everybody puts something in there, that they phonetically spell it out. So it's not just written in there, so that anybody who jumps onto that call can immediately see, oh, that's a particular variation of how this name should be pronounced. And if there's nothing in there, I'm just trusting that the name is exactly like it sounds like. But if my team hasn't been consistent about that, then that gives my customer not as great of an experience. And at the same time, it increases the amount of time that I'm having to try to manually put this in there. So if you can be able to get that in there once, it reduces the time of that duplicated information and allows your team to make sure that they're giving customers great experiences.
I love that. That's so cool. And I'm a really great example of that because people don't ever really know how to pronounce my name, very rarely. And the true pronunciation is Yvonne, but I grew up Yvonne. So it doesn't bother me, but
Sure.
it does bother people. It like bothers my friends. Like someone will like say my name wrong and they're like, that's not how she says her name. Like it's very funny. I have like neighbors that like always
Funny.
debate it. It's very, very cute, but there are people that it does bother. So I think that's a
Right.
really great little example there of how to use it.
Yeah, totally. And it just helps that customer. It gives a great experience.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like to increase bookings again, like looking at the workflows, I always talk about the like jab jab punch type of thing,
Right.
So like serving up some really great content, really helping your customers, like really putting effort into knowing what they're going to ask you and giving that to them before you're asking for the sale, I think is a good thing to
Right.
think about.
Totally.
Yeah. And CRMs can help with that. All right. Any questions, guys? How's this going for you? Are we losing you? Are you excited? Do you use CRMs? I know Amber's using 17 Hats. What do you guys use or have you tried? We want to hear from you. So share with the comments, please. I'd love it. All right, moving on to our next question. So we talked about increasing bookings. Let's talk about how florists can use CRMs to help deliver an excellent client experience.
Cool. Great. Again, great segue there. From our perspective, we want to avoid the Ryan situation where you got a really, I hesitate to say on top of it salesperson, but let's say like hungry salesperson that's like, hey, let's get out there and let's get out there and really reach out to these people with a quick follow up from this wedding show.
Right.
And it allows you to very quickly reduce those errors because you're sending out. Most tools should allow you to have like tokens in your emails that send out, so that it replaces their information with like a token with their information. So instead of first name, it actually puts their first name in that email. Yeah. So that's something that we've built out. That's something that most CRMs should have built out for you. The ability to very much personalize that experience that your customers have. So there's not some vague email being sent out. And I know like having a 5-minute turnaround is really hard if you're manually doing it. But if you've got the automation set up, it can say, hey, Shelly, it's great to chat with you today, or it was great to, thanks so much for filling out this form for your wedding on, 5/14/2021. Here's an additional piece of information. But you can add all of those pieces customized into that email to give that customer a great experience in terms of personalizing that. So that's one piece. And then the other piece too is, to the point someone mentioned earlier, like somebody being allergic to a particular flower. Well, that person's always going to be allergic to that flower. So right. If maybe you have a wedding, and so, I mean, again, this is a really heartbreaking story. We had at one point one of the people that worked with our company. We had done their sister's wedding, we had done her wedding, and they had a 1-year-old baby who passed away. And they wanted my wife to come and do the funeral, the flowers for that funeral. That's a really sensitive time. And if you do stuff like that sloppily and you don't have full context about who this person is, notes about them, you could very easily mess something up. Right. And having a tool that allows you to execute on those really important experiences in people's lives, in that case, it's really just a really tragic situation. The worst thing that they need is a misspelling on their name. The worst thing that they need is, again, adding a flower that they're allergic to. If you have not recorded that, we didn't have 6 months to plan for a 1-year-old's funeral, right? So because of that, like, we have to be on our game in that moment. And we normally didn't do those, but it was sort of we aren't going to tell you no. There's no way we're going to tell you no, that we're not going to do those flowers. And if you're going to execute in the moment, you have to have that. I've had so many times where myself or my wife, we've been at an event and a particular person called us over and they were trying to ask us particular information about the event and tell us what should happen. And if we had just went along with it, we would have messed something up because that person was not the person that was, authorized to do it, even if it's the mom of the bride or whatever. If you have a tool for your entire team, because you have multiple people on an event on site trying to coordinate things, if you have a tool that coordinates that information and that says, okay, well, no, let me pull this up, and you're able to like turn that thing around, again, maybe not to somebody who doesn't have the authority, but even to somebody who does have the authority, you're able to turn that tool around and be like, okay, here's the notes that I have. All of a sudden that solves so much rather than you arguing who said what. You said this, I said this. Maybe I'm wrong, but here's the notes that I have written down. Now let's figure out a path moving forward. So in those moments, that is absolutely integral that you have that information recorded so that you can give that best experience possible, even in really tense or odd situations.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And that's such a sad story. But yeah, so important to have that right information. Or even just to like send them the wrong kind of email, you don't want to send them like something that's like super celebratory, like or a wedding email by accident, like if you don't have anything segmented in your lists and you're messaging everyone about the same things, that just, again, makes people not feel so good.
100%. Yeah. And that is Exactly right. Like you've got to give people a great experience and like
Mhm.
not right. And we've been guilty of this as Curate as a company has been guilty of this. Like we're learning and growing just like everybody else. And where we sent a message and then sent another message, and then we'll have conversations internally where we talk to each other and say, all right, hey, what happened here? What happened with this flow? Like, because that doesn't feel right for that customer. And the great part is we have a record that it happened, and we can go back and figure out how do we fix it moving forward.
Right, right. Very good. I had someone join late. Susan says, I'm late for the game. What does CRM stand for? And CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. And we're just talking about different platforms and tools and processes that need to be considered before you implement one. It's very good. And there's so many acronyms, like marketing acronyms. It
That's
gets a
right.
little crazy. Sometimes I go blank.
CRM, CSM, CMS. Yeah, it's everything with C.
SEO.
Yes, yes, SEO. Yep, PPC.
Yeah, I know. Go on and on and on.
Hmm.
Let's see. I like it. Penny says, our game job is to make clients feel special. Tools just help
Hmm.
us funnel them into the right area of need. So
That's
true,
exactly
Penny.
right.
Yeah, it's very good. Um, Alrighty. So let's move on to platforms. What do you recommend? What different platforms do you recommend when you're considering CRM?
Sure. Yeah, great question. So I mentioned a few of them earlier. But it really again depends on what you need.
Yep.
So for us, we have helped out tremendously, like in the wedding and event space. And so, if you're needing things like automatic responses to emails, if you're needing like custom properties about people or about events, if you're needing like a pipeline management, Curate can really help with that. If we utilize HubSpot because HubSpot has built out everything from landing pages to
Yep.
blogs to really very extremely great marketing tools. And so that's a tool that we actually use in conjunction with Curate. But we heavily utilize that for a lot of the pieces that come in. So that's a great tool when you're talking about being a more established company. It is an investment, so I will preface that it is a pretty large investment. It has a free starting tier, which is the great news. So if you just
Yeah.
want to test it out and say, hey, how great is this or not, do test it out. You need to test out everything, and then it really just comes down to putting the pen to paper and saying, all right, here's what this has, here's what this has. Here are the areas that this is going to save me money. So Curate, we not only have the CRM portion, we have a lot of the back end functionality, but a lot of people lump us in with the CRM as whole. So some of those back end functionality is built for florists. So Curate's one. We've used Mailchimp before, and Mailchimp is becoming more and more CRM-ish.
Yes.
Originally it was like, hey, send great emails, but they're starting to build out some really cool tools. So I've been impressed what they've done. I know for us, like, and this is for more of an internal piece, we use something called Churn Zero, which again is more for managing our customers and helping make sure we're giving our customers a great experience, more so than marketing. I have seen, I mean, so many great tools out there that have managed those, but really it comes down to the fact that you have to ask, what am I needing, and where am I going? I listed off a few that I had written in front of me. Am I forgetting any of the major ones that are out there?
No, I mean, we use HubSpot too. We love it, but as Ryan said, it is quite expensive. But again, we're talking like thousands
Right.
and thousands of customers, and we have hundreds of reps, and it gets very complicated. So we need a complicated system. The thing that I love about HubSpot though is because we are really big into marketing. We're really big into inbound marketing, and it really just fits who we are as a company. So we do our blogging on there. I have all the workflows set up. We send out our email marketing through there. I have lots of custom lists and things like that. So yeah, I love it. It's a really great, and we do all of our landing pages, all of our forms, all of our CTAs, everything is through there. When we create
Right.
a custom URL, it all goes through HubSpot. So it's again in one HubSpot. So I love HubSpot. Before we were on HubSpot, we were on Mailchimp for our email, but that was something that I inherited, and it was a big old mess. That was before we really had like a marketing team, and they didn't really offer any kind of CRM tools. They started offering it when we were like getting ready to leave.
Right.
But it wasn't really what I was looking for. But MailChimp, I think, is a good kind of starting platform. And I think a lot of people already use it. I feel like a lot of the email platforms in general are adding CRM functionality because they realize they need to. Otherwise, they're going to lose everyone.
Yep. But, yeah, totally. And I would be remiss to say there is a tool called Yvonne, actually, our board member on our for Curate actually is the CEO of a CRM tool, and so they're a really large email and CRM tool, and that's another that we're hearing a lot of stuff. It used to be called Hatchbuck, but now it's called Benchmark One, and so that's another great one that I've seen out there.
Yeah, very good. And then, guys, there's, like I said, so many options out there. Obviously, I think Curate is a great one to get started for like floral related things.
Right.
Benchmark One. I'm trying to get the link for that before I forget. But I'll post 3 links for you guys. Curate added one that's like focuses on florists, and then I have a couple of general ones too, so that way you guys can check it out after the show. Sound good? All right, let me check and see any questions. Guys, got any questions? You're all a little quiet today. Everything's good. Everyone's sharing like positive stories. I love that. That's really great. So this hopefully all makes sense. All right. So Ryan, now that we know what CRM is, why we should use it, and we selected a platform, let's pretend that we did, guys. We're pretending, right? How do we get started? Because for us, that was a little bit complicated again, because we're using HubSpot. They have a great onboarding process and people that hold your hand through the whole entire thing. But I'm guessing that isn't always the case. So how should people get started once they select a platform?
Sure. So you've already listed out a series of tools and functions that you are needing in a platform. So you need to ask yourself the question, which of these can I implement the quickest? Which of those tools should I implement the quickest? So something that we always find is easiest is forms, is getting your form set up. Very, very quickly, you can get that set up. Doesn't matter what the CRM is. We recommend, for example, if someone's coming to Curate, we recommend them creating a proposal as quick as possible. But if someone was coming into us mainly for the CRM functionality, I would recommend them setting up a form as quickly as possible and getting that into your system, because it's if you're making the decision to make the jump, it is a jump. It's not a walk in the park. You have to invest some time, and it can very easily be discouraging to get implemented in this. And we started with HubSpot. It took us a long time before we got HubSpot the way that we wanted to. But you will go for a little while realizing that there's some kinks in your system, and then it's not working perfectly.
Right.
But try to find that thing that's going to get you encouraged. There was a moment, and maybe it's this webinar, maybe it's something that happened, maybe you accidentally put Jip in the bouquet. There was a moment when you decided, I've got to manage all this information better. Figure out what that moment is and what's going to drive you to get these pieces set up. I really, really encourage you to be able to figure out that moment and really push that into the forefront of what you're doing. Find something where you immediately get value, you feel encouraged, because if you don't start feeling encouraged, you'll start feeling discouraged really, really quickly. So find something that can encourage you as you go through the process, and then checkbox it one by one. Great, I got that thing implemented. Now I need this next thing implemented. And sometimes it takes 2 pieces to be implemented at once. So not everything is just perfect. And sometimes it's going to make more sense. I rarely, rarely recommend people to walk into a new platform and say, well, I'm going to get everything set up, and then I'm going to let the rest of my team see it.
Right.
It can happen. I know there's people who like to do that, but it fails more than it succeeds, because you're not going to get all of the pieces. You're going to have gives and gets. And you're going to be frustrated we were at like HubSpot. I love HubSpot now, but we were frustrated at first because it's like, well, but we want to do this. And we're having to come to this realization that the way that this particular thing is built is going to save us time, but maybe not in this one area, right? So it can be easy to be
Right.
frustrated at that or get discouraged by that. But you still have to step back and realize this is going to help me as a company overhaul. And I'm making a business decision here. In spite of the lost time or additional effort, I'm making a business decision to make a jump into a platform. So that would be probably my two biggest tips. Number one, find what's going to be the easiest thing that's going to encourage you. And number two, just get a little bit hard-headed and say, hey, we've got to do this. I'm going to put the time and effort into it, and I'm taking this plan. Now, most companies should set you up with some sort of onboarding specialist or something like that who helps you through that process. And just feel free to lean on that person, because that person's there to help make your life easier. So feel free to lean on that person to help you get through that process. You really, like at Curate, we realized that it wasn't going to work for us to charge extra to have somebody help you. Like the only way it worked is for us to be able to we have a full, we're actually in the middle of hiring a full-time person to do that experience and help new people getting onto the platforms. So you should, at whatever platform you use, unless it's super friendly and super lightweight, you should have a contact or a way to ask questions.
Yeah, totally, completely agree. And then when you were talking about, not trying to make it perfect and not doing everything all at once, I think that's just really key. I think that's key just in life in general is, you know, uh, Amy Nicole Floral, is she was Amy Belsters was on a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking about taking imperfect action. And then I was talking about, being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think just not worrying about everything being like super ultra perfect is just getting started and taking those baby steps. It doesn't have to be all encompassing. For me, it was importing thousands and thousands of emails and trying to get that data all consistent and clean. And so that way I'm starting with something that's, good and keeping it good, because that's so difficult sometimes, and filling in the blanks where we had blanks. So that's kind of where I started. And then it was, for me, we never had a CRM, so just learning about the CRMs and best practices and what works for us, what I thought would work for us, in setting up, different emails to use in workflows, and how do we want to communicate, and how do we want to talk, and just thinking about those things and laying it out. And then, again, setting it up and knowing that it's an evolution, right? It's a step towards just improving over time. And so that's something that we revisit often, like, okay, this is what we're saying now. Does that even still make sense? How should we be changing it? If we have like something new that's added to our company, I know that then I need to go through all of our emails that I set up for
Mm-hmm.
automation and go and update them. It's not something that I panic about. I just know it's something that is part of
Right.
my life now. So, just again, starting from somewhere where you can not feel overwhelmed and just taking those steps. And I think what Ryan also said is having someone that you can talk to is really important. Now I barely talk to my HubSpot person, but honestly, when we first started, I think I had like a weekly meetings with them when I first
Mm-hmm.
started. Then I went to like every other week, and then I went to monthly, and then I went to quarterly. They had this whole process of onboarding us. And so just think of it that way too, know that in the beginning it's like, a little intense, but then it's going to gradually move down from there. And then you're going to be comfortable with it. And then it's just, again, just looking at things and looking for ways to
Right.
improve
Right.
and what you want to add. So it's very good. I love all this. It says, Lafala, we need MRM, Media Relations Management Program. I wonder if there is one. I'm sure there is.
I'm sure there is. And I think is that I'm reading back up on our comments on the preferred media to bring clients to your site.
Yeah.
I've not found the perfect one yet. Especially like managing everything, like something that says, oh, well, let's put everything on here, right? Because you have so many different outlets of marketing. I do know that if you can do it right, PPC is really great, but that's tricky because it's taken us years to figure it out. We've invested a lot of money to figure this out, and so we have it fine tuned now with Curate. Like when you talk about PPC, But whether it's PPC, whether it's like the knot or wedding wire, I know when we were in, when we were in business, before we sold our business, we did like the knot was a big thing for us. We had a lot of great tools in the knot that sort of sent the right type of traffic. But it kind of depends on your geography, because if some geographies, wedding wire is great, some geography, the knot is great. And then it kind of depends on where you play at in the system. Are you events only? Are you trying to do daily transactions? Because we're seeing right now a bunch of florists that traditionally have been event florists are having to find other sources of income, right? Because so many events have canceled, and they're trying to be fair to their clients. And so they're starting to do retail work, and they're having to make that shift, which is a side note. I can't totally let the cat out of the bag. We are going to be doing something really, really cool. I probably in June, hopefully we should be able to announce the information in June, specifically just because of this. But to that point, people are using their Instagram pages. They have built up a following on their Instagram pages that traditionally has been centered around larger events, but now they're using that to drive traffic. And in fact, like Instagram and Facebook just released the ability to have a shoppable Instagram feed where people can go and see the items that were posted in the Instagram feed, and they can be able to click on it, go to your website, and purchase that item. Well, that's a big deal that you're now utilizing those tools that are accessible to you to be able to drive sales for that. So those are a few quick tips that I would say of what to do. But the biggest piece of all of it is pulling back to the actual money that was spent and say, here's how much money I spent. Here's the result of that, and comparing those against each other and saying, is that worth it? Was it worth me spending that money? So whatever the media is, that's going to change from person to person, business to business, but the core principle does not change, which is I'm putting money out. Am I tracking and measuring the money that's coming back in?
Yeah. Very good, Ryan. Great answer. And I love the shoppable Instagrams and Facebook. I think that's so, so powerful, guys. It makes me wish that we sold consumers, because I can't sell that way. I need them to log in and do all of that, unfortunately. But I think for people that sell to consumers, I think that's amazing and such a powerful tool. I think it's going to be, because, you can take advantage of like that immediate action and people just making those last minute decisions, like just random on a whim. Oh, that looks great. I want to buy that. And it's super easy. So cool. Very good. Amber says purchasing directly from IG and Facebook post is a game changer. Very good.
Huge.
Yeah. Yeah. This is so good. Do you have any other CRM thoughts that you want to close with, Ryan? Did we miss anything? I feel like we did a good job.
Yeah, I think we covered most of it. I mean, the biggest thing, the heartbeat of it is you want your customers to have a better experience. You want your team to be on the same page. And, whatever that tool is that you're using, you just have to make sure that you find it and that you invest the time to get it up and going. And to your point, Yvonne, the the important point behind all of this is that you're looking at the information that you have, and that in spite of the fact that you're having to actually add new things to your plate, like now managing a CRM, in spite of the fact that it is going to require some stalwartness to say we are going to keep the data in here clean, it helps you actually save time in the long run. So it doesn't feel like it when you're having to go in and edit an email workflow or something like that you're saving time in the long run. But you truly are, and you're giving customers a better experience, and that's worth its weight in gold for you to be able to make sure that the customers are having a great experience, your team is on the same page, and that you save time. So I'd highly recommend it, whatever that looks like. Yeah, I mean, you can make that decision for your own company, but use those principles we talked about in this to guide that decision.
Perfect. I know you guys shared several really great informational, educational links, guys. So make sure you check that out. Of course, I'll put them in the show notes so that way you have a record of that. That's easy to find. And I think that's it, guys. That's a wrap on today's show. Woo woo. Awesome. So again, thank you guys for spending this last hour with Ryan and I. So appreciate it. I love you guys. Be sure to tune in tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern for a special edition of Mornings with Mayesh. We are going to be chatting with the Big Flower Fight design duo, Sarah Campbell and Jordan Marks. Get to hear all about their amazing experience on this Netflix hit show. And then in the meantime, of course, if you guys have any questions, as always, please feel free to shoot me an email, DM us, or use our contact page on our website, mayesh.com. And I love you. I hope you guys have a lovely week, and we will see you soon. Take care, guys.
See you
Bye-bye.
later.